Hmm.
Hi, Greg.
Hello, Hugh.
This is June 3rd, full moon video. The moon's in Sagittarius, and it's 100% right now. I invited you here because you finished my book, and it's on its way to the copyright office now. And you put me in your first book here, this one.
Hmm.
I'm chapter 11 in this one. It's available on Kindle. You want to tell them what your book's about?
It's about the mounds and the geometry of the mounds, and also about symbolism about the moon and so on. I actually have refined some of the measurements in some of it, and I'm going to be working on it and improving it here soon. So um, it'll be even better here before too long.
Cool. And then I'm chapter 11 in your book, right?
Right. Yeah. Because when I first met you, I didn't know that I was writing another book at a time, and I wanted to incorporate you in some way in that book. So, I put a little bit of your life in there and sort of made it as an allegory and part of the story. So we'd have something in there to tell about your story. And then after that, we said, well, let's just go ahead and write an entire giant book about your life there. And that started our 600 plus page book that we have going to the Library of Congress now.
Yeah, it's 31 chapters and over 600 pages. And it's the real history of my life, right?
Yeah, and if anyone hasn't seen the last video, our friend Jace and I went up to the cemetery again and made another video of your relatives there in the cemetery, and also the mound is in the cemetery, and so we talked about the mound too. We covered pretty much everything all in one big live broadcast there.
The name of the 600-page book, you researched my life for 7 years to make it, is The Real Bottom Line on Oakland County child killings, John F. Kennedy and James Hoffa's murders, the Oklahoma bombing leading to 9/11. And I'm the truth of all of those events. And the
Mhm.
government and the CIA and the FBI and the senators have been covering me up for 70
Mhm.
years.
Mhm.
And
I feel like it's the most important truth that has come out in my lifetime, and I don't know how I got to be the one to have the privilege of exposing it, but it needs exposed more now than any time in our history.
well, hopefully people will read the book. It's the real history of the country. James Hoffa is my family member, and so is the Kennedy family. They're my family members.
Mhm.
And then, if I weren't the truth, why would the government steal $3 trillion from me and then hide me in the Twin Towers um, and the Pentagon? I had a civil rights case in the Pentagon on 9/11. They blew up that office. And it was against the family that built the Pentagon, the Groves family. And why would they murder four of my wives and my children if they weren't hiding me? They murdered them all on holidays, you know. So, what do you have to add to that, Greg?
Yeah, and more than that is how that they have covered up, and we'll talk about that in the book. There's only so much we can say on video because they'll tell us if we say it on video, they'll say it's not true and give us a strike. But obviously, it is true, and we explain that thoroughly in detail. And even you can see how we calculate the figures for trillions of dollars that were stolen in entertainment contracts and so forth. We talk about how your trademark bottom line was used by WWE and is used by all the media today and by songs and
Yeah, it was stolen.
just
My trademark was stolen after they stole my family's patents by murdering my mother's entire family. And my mother's entire family was handed George Washington's sword. And her family was with President Lincoln as President Lincoln's guest as Booth murdered him.
Mhm.
And then I was talking to all the Kennedys as they murdered the Kennedy family. Anyone that thinks I'm not truth, read the book. It has pictures, diagrams, and real federal documents in it. We even included my wife's murder in the hospital, and it says right in her records that two male nurses raped her in the hospital, and then they had to give her blood transfusions for a month because she was bleeding after they raped her. And they dismembered her, took her ears off, and they've done that to two of my other wives also, dismembered them on holidays. And holidays like Christmas and July 4th and Halloween. Why would the government go through all this trouble? And I even provide paperwork in the book that shows CBS News and the White House murdered my wives. And they never attempt to solve the murders. I've been sitting here for 42 years waiting for a single person to be put in jail for murdering my wives. They opened murder cases but never solved them.
And they attack you and take all your money and the ability to fight back. Any of the thousands of songs that you wrote could have made you very, very wealthy. And they've taken all these and fought back in so many different ways that they've stripped you down to pretty much nothing, and even gave you jobs that didn't pay you. And
all of the contracts I had at ASCAP and BMI were 100, 200, $300 million songs. We included Send in the Clowns from Stephen Sondheim, which was just in the Joker movie. Back when I signed that contract with Fox Entertainment, that was not Fox News. It was people who started Fox Entertainment before the internet existed, or Fox Entertainment. I signed that contract with Tommy Volando in New York. And on the day I signed that, a clown murdered my cousin down in Florida where I used to live.
Right. So they used it into Send in the Clowns, right?
Yeah, and that was worth $100 million back then.
Yeah, in the Joker movie, yeah.
It was worth $100 million before the Joker movie back in the 60s.
Yeah. That's just one song of thousands.
28,000 they stole from me. And then from my mother, my mother was the Fuller family. And her family owned patents on buses, the Chevy van, on milk trucks, the Fuller transmission that goes in all the semis. We own Borg Warner, puts all the transmissions in washing machines. And they murdered my mother's entire family and stole those from her. And what else did they steal in Hollywood, Greg, from my mother?
Property, real estate, homes. They named half of the city and streets after your relatives, and right underneath the Hollywood sign.
My family, the Gardner family and the Fuller family, made Hollywood. And in between the Gardner and the Fuller family under the Hollywood sign is Vistas. And I ran Vista Wall for my mother's family, Mr. Harris. We rebuilt Iraq after they blew up the Twin Towers and lied to the world about who blew up the towers. And I'm not going to say who. And I'm not a conspiracy theory. You just spent 7 years of your life researching everything I told you, and you came up with so much history, it's unbelievable, and it's all in your book.
Yeah, there's no theory in a person's life testimony that was happening right in front of you, and real murders. These aren't theories. These are things that have really happened to you, and you know there's no theoretical portion of a real life story.
Yeah, and I lived on Hoover Street, and the FBI kidnapped me when I was 4. on the same day they murdered Admiral Byrd, one of my family members. And then Jimmy Hoffa was my family member, and the FBI detained me for his murder 4 hours after he disappeared because he was with my mother-in-law. And I'm not in any book, in any movie. I'm nowhere to be found, and I'm the real truth. And there's no lie in this. And this is 70 years of my real life. You researched and put in your book with real federal documents and photos. Everybody should buy this book in a month when it comes out. It'll be on Kindle, and it's called The Real Bottom Line. I own Bottom Line, New York, all my life. It's called The Real Bottom Line on Oakland County child killings, John F. Kennedy and James Hoffa's murders, the Oklahoma bombing, and 9/11. Tim McVeigh lived next door to me and bought drugs off of property I bought from Donald Trump's tax attorney. And he was set up for Oklahoma bombing. And these are things I don't think. These are things I really lived. My entire life, the Nichols family has lived next door to me. So do you have anything else to say, Greg?
They're all people you really know, and some of the pictures and the concepts will really surprise a lot of people. This is the only real truth that's ever come out in any of these topics, because everything else that's ever been written has been written either by ignorant people that don't know your story, or by people intentionally working to cover up your story. And so most of the world has not heard what is being demonstrated and is in this book. So
now, all of my wives have been murdered by hitmen, hired by the White House and senators, and the family that really murdered Jimmy Hoffa. My wives, for instance, Cherry Heath from California, she created the Head Start program. She was Ronald Reagan's role model for Head Start. Her name was Cherry Heath. I saved her from 2 off-duty policemen that kidnapped her, gave her a ranch, a Civil War ranch in Tennessee. And as the election started against McCain and Sarah Heath Palin, they murdered my wife, Terry Heath, on my farm. The wife before her was Ricky Nelson's cousin. The wife after her was Mellon Banks. I'm Harris Banks, and Chase is my cousin, Chase Banks. Morgan is my cousin. I grew up with Lincoln, Hamilton, Grant, and these are all my cousins on US.
And they were in your school. They went to class with you.
Yeah, we were friends. We played together and grew up together. As they murdered the Kennedy family, and there's details about the Kennedy family that it's just unbelievable. Things like his press secretary helping DuPont steal my trademark. Using my trademark on the front of his book after the Kennedy family was murdered. I mean, these things, and the person who made the cover for the book was my next door neighbor.
Yeah, didn't he run a cement company right down the road from you?
Right on
his family did.
Right on Durham Street, and then the Barr family hid me my whole life. I put all of this and more is in your book, and it's real history. The Graham family grew up with me, and I owned Baker College, the land Baker College was built on after they murdered John F. Kennedy. And that's Hugh Street, and I'm Hugh. These things are not made up or contrived or any type of conspiracy theory. This is the real truth of the Oakland County child killings, John F. Kennedy and Hoffa's disappearance, the Oklahoma bombing, and 9/11. This is all the truth. And I no longer care what people think. And I would like to thank you for taking 7 years of your life and researching the facts that I told you.
Oh, there's even more than that. I mean, there's the boy in the box story, and so much more.
Yeah,
This is
The policeman D'Angelo who murdered
right.
over 200 people in California, where they're still stealing my family's properties in Hollywood, selling it. And then they tax my mother's dead body. She's been dead for 30 years. They sell her property and tax it to her. It's just unbelievable.
I think it's going to really wake a lot of people up to realize that there is a thread that sews all these things together, and it's all centered around your story.
Yeah, yeah. I hope people buy it and read it. It's the real history of the country.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, it's all right. George Washington, where you live, you have the sword in your museum. He handed it to my family.
Right.
And you know this. And then we created America.
Mm-hmm.
And then my only living wife, her family has hidden this fact, and they're still threatening you, trying to hide this truth. And they are Apache Indians.
Mm-hmm.
Let's end it here, Greg. I hope you have a good week, and I hope you sell that book when we get it up on Kindle. Mm-hmm. It really needs to be in every college on earth. It's the real history of America.
And it has been a pleasure getting to know you these years, Hugh, and learning the real history that I had no clue about at the beginning. And it's a privilege to get to know and understand all these principles and how the country really works. Things I would have had no clue about.
Our country is so corrupt, it's unbelievable. After you started doing my book, I went back to Michigan and tried to talk to L. Brooks Patterson about the people who kidnapped and murdered my identical twin with Camille Sirhan in 1957 when we were 4. And as I sat in L. Brooks Patterson's police department, they murdered 5 more of my children. So we'll end it there. I'm starting to lose my voice.
Yeah, I've had a sore throat too for a couple of weeks now. I feel you.
I had somebody pour some type of chemical on the back of my neck. We made a video about that. And the inside of my throat has actually been bleeding for a month. And nobody will give me an antibiotic. Here where I live, there's very few doctors, and all the nurses think I have an allergy for 3 months, and I know I don't have an allergy.
No, that's what they've been telling everybody around here too.
That's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
If I have an allergy, it lasts 2 weeks, not 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
You take care, Greg. Have a good evening.
Okay, you too, Hugh. Good night.
I'll mail you this and put it up on YouTube and your Facebook. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.